welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and you're still on the Nile cruise on Nile TV International, and starting our this special edition for Eid al-Adha. We celebrate Eid al-Adha. We look back at a time when this sacred season hosted the grandest tourism and the diplomatic in Egypt's history, the Egyptian Mahmal. And long before the modern mega events, the departure of the Kiswa caravan turned Cairo into the grand fortress and the Nile into a global stage, drawing the thousands of the international spectators. And to dig more in this issue, we are most delighted to be joined by Basma El-Harmil, a tourist guide. Thank you so much for being on Nile TV International.
Thank you so much for having me.
Basma, can you tell me please, how did the departure of Al-Mahmal turn the weeks leading to Eid al-Adha into Egypt's biggest annual festival ever?
Of course, so the Mahmal itself, the Egyptian Mahmal itself, is a spectacular event, happened in Egypt for centuries. It was not only for 1 year or so. All the city gathered together to watch it along the route of the Mahmal from the citadel of Salah ad-Din till the Cairo gates and the riverfront, and where the boats started to move as well from the river till going towards the Hijaz.
Yes.
So Egypt had the capability to create that mega event of our modern sense right now,
Yes.
And it was like a touristic event as well, as foreigners came to witness that event. And it was a quite long journey where the star of the show, the Mahmal itself, and the Kiswa, or the covering of the Kaaba, was following, and the pilgrims and the musicians. It was a whole parade, and it was not a quite religious procession. It was a festival and ceremonial. So
Okay.
it's a really quite interesting part of the Egyptian history.
Well, also, Basma, for thousands of the foreign travelers who flocked to Cairo, what are the specific visual elements like the military brass band, the festive folk music, and the famous street performance known as Afarit al-Mahmal, as you said before we started shooting, made this look like a true global carnival?
Well, first off, the Afarit al-Mahmal, it's really interesting part of that show. So Afarit al-Mahmal were like a circus performers, like the circus performers, where they had this funny masks like clowns, for example, and
It's like the tricks.
Yes, exactly, like them, and masks like clowns. And the fireworks as well, and they made a lot of fun where it was enjoyable for the people who's watching or witnessing the journey, and as well the musicians, and there were Sufi chanters as well, and the foreigners had the ability to watch the tradition or the craftsmen weaving the covering of the Kaaba. So it was a whole show for the foreigners. It was like nowadays the artisan tourism. So I believe they haven't seen something like that in any other country.
Yes, for sure. And also, you've talked about the parade. The entire parade route was iconic, officially kicking off the citadel gates before moving through the heart of the Cairo down to the Nile. From a destination marketing perspective, from your perspective, how did using these grand backdrops showcases Egypt's prestige to visiting the foreigners?
So it was not only about religion, it was diplomacy and positioning Egypt's role in the Islamic world. Showing the powerful symbols of Egypt, like the citadel, the riverfront, the old gates of Cairo. All of these elements showed the power of Egypt and how they were able, or the Egyptians were able to manage such a mega event.
Yes. Also, from a logistic perspective, neither the marketing one, what can today's mega event planners learn from the old Cairo, or how old Cairo can flawlessly manage those massive holidays crowds along with the route from the fortress down to the water?
Well, first of course, securing the route itself, using the military personnel, of course, guarding it, and there were pilgrims and so on. So nowadays we can learn from it many things, like the guarding of that parade.
Yes.
And idea of securing
Yes. This
the
is very
kiswa.
important. Yes.
Of course, the idea of securing the kiswa itself, as it has a symbolic and sacred to the Muslims.
Yes.
So yeah, they can learn a lot from it by learning how they managed the route.
Well, also, Basma, as we know that the word mahmal can refer to the camel letter itself, which is famously tied to Egypt's Sultanate Shajarat al-Dur. How does this unique female legacy has the rich layer of the culture storytelling for the modern heritage?
Of course, so the idea of linking
Yes.
this story with
Shajarat al-Dur.
Shajarat al-Dur, the famous female leader of Egypt, is really important for tourists as well. They won't remember really the numbers or dates, but the story itself behind it, and um, the legend of Shajarat al-Dur starting this idea will be very important to incorporate it with the story itself, or narrating the Mahmal journey
Yes.
as well for tourists.
Beyond the spectacular, this was a massive tool for the international diplomacy. How did Egypt leverage this Eid tradition to project the political soft power of the host foreign dignitaries?
So while returning from, or while this journey was returning after Al-Eid, parts of the Kaaba were cut and distributed among dignitaries and official elites and um, foreigners who held a high rank, and this was not a regular gifting. It held a symbolic political meaning as well. So it was really important.
In your point of view, Basma, from the bustling the markets to the specialized kiswa waving workshops, how does this season can create a booming microeconomy driven by early artisan and the holiday in general?
So that season, it was like a tourism season. Like nowadays, we have the winter season, so
Yes.
it's the boom in tourism. So the Mahmal season was really important for many people. It had indirect positive impact on the food sellers, for example, animal keepers, merchants, and of course the weavers, who had the most important role in this
Yes,
by
understand.
weaving the kiswa and the embroiderers as well. So it had the whole city had a boost in economy at that time.
Okay, the story didn't actually end when the caravan left for Eid. The Mahmal eventually made a grand return to Cairo, carrying the previous year's use of al-Kiswa. How did the distribution of these sacred pieces to notables or to the nobles and the foreign guests serve as the unique tool for the international tourism?
So it was like a unique gift, first of all, to the elites.
And do you know to whom they gave them, especially from the nobles or from the foreigners? And
It's already for the nobles from Egypt and for the foreigners. So it was
it
for the
created an
dignitaries.
international diplomacy, I think, also.
Exactly, yes. It was a valuable gift and a symbolic gift. So it was an important part of the diplomacy between Egypt and the different countries.
Yes. If you could select one specific historic location along with the Nile or Cairo's gates to host the permanent immersive digital exhibition of the Mahmal for the modern Eid visitors, where would it be and why, in your point of view?
Well, we
The most
have
important location.
Yeah, we have the part of the Kaaba,
Mhm.
the covering of the Kaaba, and a mahmal at the Namek, displayed in the Namek. So we can create there a VR exhibition using digital platforms where we can let tourists enjoy the sounds of the drums, the Sufi enchanters. Um, uh, and also, so the Namek will be really important at that point, as they are
What
already
is the
displayed.
most important location that you can select specifically along with the route that the Mahmal took?
Well, I believe the citadel will be really
The
important.
citadel.
The
Why?
citadel. first off, the area of the citadel can
Yes.
host many people as well, and
Okay.
especially at the start, it's the starting point. It's
Yes.
the most important part. So the starting point should be where we can host this event.
Yes. Basma, in your point of view, could Egypt revive the spirit of Mahmal as we live in these days as a signature annual Eid al-Adha cultural festival to boost the modern international tourism, in your point
Yes,
of
of
view,
course.
and why?
Of course, we can revive it, but it won't be like a political event as in the past. It will be more of a cultural experience
Mm.
and connect the past and present. As again, pilgrimage is an important event for Muslims, so it would be quite easy to revive it. And as we mentioned, we can use these two locations, the Citadel and the Namek, to show
To
the
showcase this,
journey,
yes,
yes,
yes.
the journey of the Mahmal to the Egyptians and non-Egyptians as well.
Well, Basma, also, when did Egypt begin manufacturing the Kiswat al-Kaaba, and how long did this tradition continue?
Well, it started with the Zahir Babers, where when he wanted to reinforce his custodianship over the holy lands or the holy places. Since then, he mandate workshops in Egypt or in Cairo specifically to um, for the weavers to create and to produce the covering of the Kaaba every year, and since then it's happening every year.
Okay. Tell me more about how was the Kiswat al-Kaaba produced inside the historic Dar al-Kiswa workshops in Cairo, and what was it made of? The embroidered, the silver threads and the gold threads and things like this, yes?
So it's Dar al Khurumfish,
Mm.
where the covering of the Kaaba was produced. The main material was black silk, and it was embroidered with using silver and gold threads all along the Kaaba, the covering of the Kaaba, and Quranic verses were somehow were colorful. And the mahmal as well was a colorful textile.
Mm.
It wasn't plain, and it was embroidered all over it,
Mhm.
and it had many colors as well.
Okay, why was the Egyptian Kiswa was considered one of the most finest symbols of the Islamic craftsmanship?
So it was really thick,
Mhm.
and it was really heavy because of the
Special one.
yes,
Mm.
exactly, because of the threads
Mm.
used in weaving it.
Mm.
So and this required a high craftsmanship to be able to use needles to craft it using really specific inscriptions. Of course, the Quranic verses
Versus.
should appear
Yes.
quite well. So it showed a high craftsmanship of the Egyptian weavers.
Yes, also, as we all know, that it took a long time that the kiswa to be done. How long did it take the artisan to complete the kiswa each year?
So it was for months actually.
Mm.
We really don't have a record of how long exactly it took them, but it took about months to few months to complete it, and the parade itself took a few weeks before Eid al-Adha
Mm.
to emerge from Cairo.
Can we talk more about who participated in the Mahmal procession accompanying the Kiswa from Egypt to the Hijaz?
Of course, many many people accompanied the journey. We have first of the noble, the main one who was leading the journey, and then we have the pilgrims themselves who were
Mm.
needed to be organized and managed. And then we have camels who had very unique names like Noble or Blessing, for
Mm.
example.
Yes.
And there were musicians
Mm.
and Sufi chanters,
Mm.
and there were, of course, military personnel where they were needed to protect the Mahmal and the people going along the journey all the way.
Let us talk more about the Mahmal. What is the role of the Mahmal play during the eras of the Mamluks and the Ottomans and the Fatimids also?
Of course, it went for centuries. Um, well, there's no many differences between them, as it started, as I mentioned, by the Zahir Babers, and then kept on going for centuries. And the main role of it is to show the Egyptians' role in the Islamic world and for the Muslims, and its important role in the region. Um, so yeah, so the most important part is the rulers of Egypt were the custodians.
Yes, and as you said that the rulers and the nobles, how did the rulers and the leader historically use the Mahmal procession to demonstrate Egypt's religious and political influence?
So it was political. It was already political more than its religion. Um, so again, it was a huge procession from Cairo to the Hijaz. Um, a lot of people were accompanying the journey, and there were also money going with the journey or with the main leader of the Mahmal that was given in the Hijaz. So yeah, it's really important.
Can we talk more about the kinds of chants and music that the festives accompanied the Mahmal procession in the streets of Cairo? Do we know any of them?
Basically Sufi chants, and of course, and religious chants as well.
Okay. Finally, Basma, what is the tradition of Egypt sending the Kiswa eventually come to an end?
So it came to end in the 1926, where like an accident happened.
What has happened?
Well, as I mentioned, there were military personnel accompanying the Mahmal, and there were military personnel from the Wahhabi movement attacked the military personnel. So since then it stopped. The whole journey stopped. However, the Kiswa itself kept manufacturing in Egypt for a while, but from one year to another, till it stopped completely in 1962.
Thank you so much, Basma, for being with us on the Nile cruise. Basma El-Harmil, thank you so much, a tourist guide, and it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.